Hello students, welcome back. So in this tutorial, I'm going to be talking about for loop and while loop. For loop allows you to perform repetitive tasks. So following this one right here is the general expression of your for loop. All right, let's get started with the for loop first. Imagine you want to print 4 hellos. For some reason, you like hellos and you want to print 4 of them. And let's run that, and there you go. It prints out 4 hellos for you. Now you can accomplish the same task using a for loop. So what I'm doing, I'm actually using that syntax, the general expression I just showed you, which is this right here. So come over here, and I'm saying for I in 0123 colon print hello. So it's gonna print hello 4 times, and each time when it's printing your hello, the I is taking all these values. So where does the for loop end? So let's start with this. So the for loop for I in 0123, if I run this, it's gonna print hello I'm trapped, hello I'm trapped, hello I'm trapped, and all the way up to 4 times. So if I move this over here, right here, now if I run this, actually let me just do it in a new line so you can see. And now I move my print statement over here. So my for loop now is going to print this and these 2 lines 4 times. It's only going to print this thing at the end. And if I run this, you see that it prints finished only at the end. This is part of the for loop, and that's because this indentation. This is what decides where exactly which block of code it falls under your for loop. Okay, what is this variable I that I was talking about? Let's see if we can access that. And we can access the variable I. Let's just print by multiple cells over here. All right, so let me come over here, Control AX and Control V. All right, for I in 0, 1, 2, 3, I want to print my I. I can actually access my I this way. If I run this, and you see that I'm able to print all my I's. So these are my variables that I'm able to access if I want to. So one advantage of that, one of the application of this would be maybe you want to run this and you want to print a line. So in this case, if I run this, it prints 0, hello, I'm trapped in a for loop, 1, hello, I'm trapped in a for loop, 2, hello, I'm trapped in a for loop. So in this case, these are the syntax I'm using. These are statements I'm executing. Print f, I'm using my f string, colon I, comma, hello. So this I is getting printed. So each time when this statement gets executed, it's going to print I. So I is going to take value 0, 1, 2, 3. And if I change this, let's say to 7, it's going to say 0, 1, 7, 3. And if I run this, you're going to see 7 right there. All right. And let's change this back to 2. All right. Now let's take a simple application of that. A kind of useful application. Let's say you want to multiply every number in this list by 3. All right, you can do that using for loop. You can say for I in 0, 1, 2, 3, result equal to I times 3, and then I'm printing my I and I'm printing my result over here. So if I run this, it prints 0 times 3 equals 0. This is my 0. The first time it takes is this. The second time when the for loop executes, your I becomes 1. Okay, so result becomes 3 times 1 is 3, 2 times 3, 3 times 3, and so on and so forth. Again, you can modify this. You can change this to, let's say, 5. Okay, and when you run this thing, it's gonna print 0, 1, 5, 3, 0, 1, 5. So I is taking all these values one at a time. You can also print a whole list. So let's say you have a list over here and that contains all fruits. Okay, and you want to type, you want to print, I love mangoes, I love kiwi, I love cherry, I love jackfruit. You can do that using for loop. For E and fruits, print F. Again, I'm using F string. F a double quote, I love, and then put E inside your curly braces, and that's gonna, let me just remove this space, and that's gonna print your I love, oops, sorry, I love mangoes, I love kiwi, I love cherry, I love jackfruit, and E is going through each one of these values. Then you have range, very widely used with for loop. So range and for generally they go hand in hand. So range is a function, it's an inbuilt function that allows you to generate these numbers. And it has a start parameter, it has a stop parameter, it has a step. Start tells you where exactly to start from. Okay, stop tells you where does it stop, and step tells you how many steps should it go forward. So let's say this is what I want to print. I actually want to emulate my loop. Remember the 0, 1, 2, 3 I just did? I want to emulate that. And I can do that by using this command for I in range 0, comma 4. And basically this statement, if I run this, it's going to print exactly the same thing as this statement right here. This right here. So this and this are exactly same. The only difference is I'm not using list anymore. I'm using range. Now, one of the advantage of range is that what if you want to print this thing 10,000 times? You just have to put 10,000 over here. That's it. This right here, if you want to print 10,000 times, you would have to write 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 10,000. That can take a long time. So this is a really convenient tool, range. What if you want to multiply all the elements by 3? You can do that too, just like we did before. So in this case, come over here and multiply all the elements by 3, and it does that. So your I is, remember, you start with 0, it's going to go all the way up to 4, but it's not going to include 4, by the way. So over here your start position was 0 and it stops at 4, but and it does not include 4. So this I is going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. And so when I is 0, so result is going to be 0 times 3 is 0. So this is going to become 0. And then I is 0, so it's going to print 0 times 3 equals 0. Likewise, I is 1, it's going to print 1 times 3 is 3, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the advantage of this is I can make it 100. Okay, and if I do 100, now before, if I was using this right here, I would have to type 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 100. That's going to take forever. Over here, I can just type 100 over here, and it's going to give me tables for 100 all the way, like this. All right. All right, let's go back to 4. All right. Now, let's redo the above one. But this time, let's use the parameter step. So I want to print, I want to actually do the same thing, but I want to do for these numbers 0, 4, 8, 12. If I run this, it's going to 0 times 4 is 0, 4 times 4 is, oh, actually, this should be 4 over there. 4. So 4 times 4, let me run this again. 4 times 4 is 16, 8 times 4 is 32, 12 times 4 is 48. And let me change this over here too, so I don't forget. All right. So this particular function right here, I'm saying that my start with 0, stop up to 16, and step size 4. So it's going to print 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going to, let's say it's going to start with 0, 1, oops, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and so on and so forth. So it's going to go 0, then it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Step size 4, right? It's going to print 4. Then it's going to do the same thing. It's going to go 8, 9. Then after it prints out 4, okay, after it does 4, it's going to do step size is what? 4. So it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to print 8. Then your I becomes 8. And so I becomes 8. So this way you can achieve these different types of list. In this case, your list is 0, 4, 8, 12. All right. Okay. You can also combine for with break. And what break does, sometimes you may want to immediately exit the loop after some conditions is satisfied, even although you may have some iterations left. So for example, let's say you want to find if the number 5 exists in this list. You're trying to look for a number and you're just trying to determine if the number exists in a list. If it does, find that number and exit the list, right? That's all you want to do. Then you don't want to check all the way over there. So if you're checking over here and you find 7, as soon as you find 7, you want to stop, you just want to come out of the loop and don't want to go through this over here. So you can implement that using break. So I'm saying for I in numbers, print f checking I. Actually, let me run this first. Come over here, let me copy this, and let me just open up a few cells. All right, let me run this. And there you go. So it's checking for 5, checking for 23, checking for 8. You see, checking 8, checking 23, and checking 7. So as soon as it finds 7 right there, if I equal to 7, it says found target exiting the for loop, and a break. What break is going to do? It's going to exit the for loop. So as soon as it finds 7, it's going to come out of the for loop, and then it's going to type loop finished. Found target exiting the loop. You see, it types found target exiting the loop and then break, and then it breaks out of the loop and then loop finish. Now on the other hand, if I run the same thing without using the break, okay, same thing, come over here. Now I remove the break. Okay, let me disable the break. Now if I run this, it's gonna say found target exiting, but it will not exit the loop. You see, after it found 7, it's gonna go to 3, it's gonna print 65, 16, 3, 14. It's gonna keep going all the way up to the end. But maybe that's not what you want. You want to exit the loop, okay, after some condition is met. So this is where you can use your break keyword. Then you have continue. What continue does, it skips the rest of the current loop iteration and moves to the next iteration. So this is a pretty another interesting another one you can do. So let's say you want to print all the numbers except 65. So in this case, you want to do continue. Okay, you're using continue. Okay, print all the numbers except 65. So let's do that. Let me copy this. Um, So this one was 4 plus, this is 4 plus continue. So if I run this, it's going to print 5, 23, 8, 43, but it will not print 65, but it will print rest of the other numbers. So you can accomplish that by using continue statement. So what happens for I in numbers, if I equals 65, okay, if I is 65, then type this message skipping number and then I, okay, and then you're gonna say continue. So it's gonna say continue, and it's not gonna print your 65. You see there, it prints out 5, prints out 23, prints out 8, prints out number 43, number 7, number 3. But as soon as it reaches 65, right, it reaches 65, it goes, it says continue, it sees continue. As soon as it sees continue, the loop the loop actually does not go forward. The iteration goes right on the top again. So 65, actually after 65, this number does not, this particular statement does not get executed. So after this, you don't see number 65. You see that it says number 16, but you don't see the string number 65 because this string now has not been executed because of this continue statement. Now you can do the same thing. If you want, just play around, come over here and run exactly as this command, but this time disable your continue and watch what happens. If you disable your continue, you see it says skipping 65 right there, case 65, but it comes over here after this. You see that, and it prints number 65. Skipping number 65 prints number 65. Over here, when it says skipping number 65, it actually skipped the whole loop. It actually went straight on the top. So it did not, you did not see the did not see the string number 65. Same thing over here. Make sure you understand the logic. Make sure you understand this code and this code. This way it will help you understand the difference between using continue and not doing without continue. Okay, then you have another loop, which is while loop. And this is the general expression of your while loop. While a Boolean expression is true, you perform these statements. You actually perform these operations. Okay, these are statements you execute. So in a for loop, we are encoding the iterator value, but over here we are not doing that. We are actually using our own iterator. So this is your basic while statement right here. So this is your basic syntax. Okay, this is your basic while loop. So let's say you want to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on each new line. And let's run that and prints out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what's happening is I'm defining my I equal to 1 and I'm saying while my I is less than or equal to 5, perform these operations. And what these operations are: print out I and increment my I by +1. You remember that syntax I have showed you? This basically means the same thing as I equal to I plus 1. This means exactly same thing, okay? Okay, so increment your I in this case. Okay, go back again. Now I becomes 2. Okay, I becomes 2. Then it's going to check, is 2 less than 5? Yes, it is. It's going to print 2. Then it's going to increment your I by 1. Now I becomes 3. Comes back again. Is 3 less than 5? Yes, it is. It's going to print 3. Increment this I becomes 4 now. Is your I equal to 4? Is this less than 5? Yes, it is. Print 4. Comes over here again. Increment your I now. I becomes 5. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? Yes, it is. Print out your 5. Increment your I to 6. Is 6 smaller than or equal to 5? Nope, it is not. As soon as this condition becomes false, it comes out of this for loop, while loop. And yes, that's why you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then at the end it does not go up to 6, it actually comes out of the loop. Okay, you can play around with this thing. You can actually change this to maybe 3. All right, so if you play around with 3, this is going to print 1, 2, 3. So I would actually suggest work with this thing. Just try to understand what's happening and try to understand this logic. These are very fairly intuitive logics. Okay, let's say you only want to print even numbers: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So there are a lot of ways you can do this one. So let me show you each one of the style. So you can accomplish the same task multiple ways. And let me just come over here. All right. Let me copy this, Control X, put it over here. All right. So let's say you want to print only even numbers: 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is one of the way. This is one style. Basically what I'm doing, I'm saying my num equal to 2, I'm creating a variable, and while my number is less than 10, okay, as long as my number is less than 10, print out the number and increment the number by 2. Okay, so if I run this, there you go. It prints out 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then at the end, it prints out done. Again, the logic what's happening, it starts with 2. Is 2 less than 10? Yes, it is. Print out 2. Increment my number by 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. Comes over here. Is 4 less than 10? Yes, it is. Print out your number, which is 4 now. And then increment your num. Now it becomes 6. So your number is changing from 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. But when it reaches 10, then it exits the loop. So this is one way. There's another way you can accomplish the same thing. Style 2. In this case, I'm actually saying my number equal to 0 while my number is less than 10. Increment my number by +1. Okay, just increment, or let me run this code by the way. All right, increment the number by 1 and then check if this number is even. By the way, this is the way to check if a number is even. Basically what I'm doing, I'm dividing number by 2 and I'm checking if the remainder is 0. If it's 0, then it's an even number. All right, so check if the number is even. If it's even number, then you print the number. Otherwise, go back on the top again. Increment, check what is your number less than 10? Yes, it is. Now it's remember the previous value was 1. Now it's going to become come over here. 1 is less than 10. Yes. Now increase the number. Your number is going to become 2 now. Is this num even number? Yes, it is. It's going to print 2 over here. Comes back over there. Remember, num is 2 now. So is 2 less than 10? Is number less than 10? Yes, it is. So num, increment num by 1. Now your num becomes 3. And 3, is it an odd number? Is it an even number? No, it's not. It's not going to print 3 over there. So it's going to keep doing this thing loop until this num becomes greater than 10. So generally, whenever you see these types of condition, you're gonna notice this is a trend that anytime when you are using a counter, you're checking a counter, or let's say this value is less than something, so that value somewhere inside your while loop is gonna change. Okay, it has to change. Otherwise, this condition will always be true. You don't want that to happen. So you want this condition at some point to become false. Okay, and because this condition is gonna false, you're gonna come out of the loop. Okay, style 3, another way. So you can accomplish the same thing in many different ways. In this particular case, I'm using continue. All right. So in this case, style 3, using continue. Don't have to use it, but I just wanted to show you that you can actually use continue too. Okay. So you start with number equal to 0 while your number is less than 10. Okay. You increment your number and then you ask, is the number odd number? If the number is odd, continue, meaning go back straight to the top. Do not even execute this statement. This statement will not get executed because remember what continue does? It actually goes straight to the top of that. It starts your iteration. It skips the operation after the iteration. So it will not continue after this. So when you type continue, it's going to go straight on the top. All right. So it's not going to execute this. So your num now becomes 2. It comes over here, so you 1, and then your num increments by 1, it becomes 2. Then it asks, is num an odd number? Okay, if it's an odd number, it's going to skip it. If it's an even number, okay, if your num is 2 and if it's an even number, so in this case, it's going to print your number. So if I run this, it's going to print 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this is another way of doing the same thing. I would not do this thing, but I just wanted to show you that you can accomplish the same thing using different ways. Now you can also have a user input. This is one of the application. You can actually ask a user to supply an input. So in this case, I'm saying num equal to integer input, enter a number 0 to stop. And while the number, let me just run this thing, 0 to stop. Let's say I enter 2. Okay, you enter 2, then I enter 6. 6. You see, it just keeps going. 2. Actually, let's say 3, 7. Okay, and then I have to type, then I type 0. And there you go. You see that? So as long as I'm not entering 0, if I'm entering something else, it's just going to keep echoing the word. So, but the moment I type 0, it's going to stop. So what's happening, you can actually accomplish that, and you do accomplish something like this using while loop. So I ask my number, okay, user enters some number over here. As long as my number is not equal to 0, type this on the screen. You entered the number. Then you ask again, enter a number. Now the user enters a number, goes back on the top again, and it checks if the number is it equal to 0. As long as the number is not equal to 0, it's going to keep running these two statements. Keep running, keep running, keep running. But the moment the user types 0, so in this case, let's say the user types 0 over here, this is going to go right on top, and then it's going to say is number not equal to 0. And if this condition comes out to be false, it's going to say loop ended, and that's what just happened. Okay, you can also use while with the break statement. So in this case, let's say you want to print 1, 2, 3 on each line and stop at 4. In this case, I'm using while with break. So I'm saying my I equal to 1, I'm initializing my I, and I'm saying that, hey, while my I is less than or equal to 6, okay, I want you to do these things. If my I equal to 4, okay, if my I oh, let me run this first, by the way. All right. If my I becomes equal to 4, then print stopping at 4 and break out of the loop. Okay, so whatever is after this, don't do anything after that. Otherwise, okay, if let's say my I is not equal to 4, then print out my I and then increment the I and then go back on the top. In other words, I want to print 1, 2, 3 on each new line, and then when you reach at 4, stop. So this is what exactly happening. So the moment it reaches I equal to 4, it's going to type print stopping at 4, and then it's going to break. Once it breaks out of the loop, meaning it leaves the loop, This statement does not get executed. What is this statement? It tries to print the value of I, which is 4, but it never prints 4 over here. You see that? You don't see the 4 over there. And because there's no 4, that's why you don't see the 4. You see stopping at 4. Okay, infinite loops. This is important. Thought you should know because I've seen students done it a lot of times. I would not recommend ever do this on your computer. So let's see. Let's look at this statement right here. I equal to 1. While I is less than or equal to 0, print hello. Okay. And then I increments by 2. Now, if you look at this condition, if you think a little bit about it, this condition is always going to be true. You see, this is always going to be true. So since this condition is always going to be true, because remember I start with 1, then I print my hello, then my I gets increased by 2, now I becomes 3, 3 is greater than 0, prints hello, now I increments by 2 again, so now I becomes 5 and this becomes 5. So this condition is always going to be greater than 0 no matter what. This is always going to be greater than 0. So this is always going to be true. So it's going to keep printing hello, 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 keep going forever. I would not run this code because it can crash your system, but it is one of the things you should be aware that anytime when you do these types of loop, be mindful that you want to be sure that this one actually at some point exits your while loop. In other words, you have to find or you have to create a logic so that at some point this condition becomes false. If this condition never becomes false, this will keep executing. This is called infinite loop, and that happens a lot with students. All right, thank you.